Hey guys, what is up? Excuse me, my throat's a little thing. I just went on a huge rant on Tesla video. But yeah, well, welcome to a new video for NVIDIA. Let's go over NVIDIA as per usual. I'll give you my thoughts moving forward and all that good stuff. So yeah, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, my thoughts on the charts, etc., well, I do share my thoughts every single day with my members in my YouTube membership section, of course, down below. For just $3 a month, you get access to all my thoughts, post updates, mainly on Tesla stocks, sometimes other stocks as well. Every day the market is open. A lot of posts today, of course. I mean, a lot of posts lately because the market is just tanking. But let me go over here. We go. Check it out. I'm gonna go over this post that I posted literally as the market opened up. But yeah, so I'll give you my thoughts constantly throughout the day as the market is trading. Again, mainly on Tesla stocks, sometimes other stocks for the $3 tier or for the $5 tier. You get access to everything in the first tier plus NVIDIA daily updates, such as, for instance, this morning when I mentioned hit this, and this was again back when the market was only 15 minutes open, right? I mentioned how this is a bit of a dangerous NVIDIA candle setting up on the daily. This one needs a bit of time because if we end up closing the day lower than yesterday's low, then we print a large bearish engulfing candle, and that would be very bad for the bulls, right? So I essentially mentioned to the members that, hey, this is not a great looking candle. In my opinion, not financial advice, obviously, it's never financial advice, it's just my opinion. This requires some patience. Let this thing do its thing. Let it figure out what the hell it wants to do post earnings, and then we'll figure that out after. And well, that's a damn good thing I stayed away from the stock, right? Because again, as the market opened, I instantly bought back those cash secured puts that I mentioned, right? Instantly bought those back for pretty much maximum profits because I'm not taking this chance again. I made the same mistake with coin before, just for transparency purposes. I made the same mistake with coin, literally on this massive red candle right here. I made the exact same mistake. I'm not making that mistake again. But nonetheless, what does this actually mean moving forward for NVIDIA? Is the stock cooked? Is it over? Is the dream dead? Is this stock going to zero? Or is there still some hope? Well, it's in a bit of an interesting spot here. It is in a bit of an interesting spot. So the most obvious thing, let's just get the most obvious thing out of the way. Yeah, this is quite the bearish engulfing candle. This is an absolutely disgusting looking bearish engulfing candles. And NVIDIA does have a habit of following through on these bearish engulfing candles. Let's take a look at the last two, right? Here was one that we had over here, right? It looks almost identical actually to this one. Like, tell me this doesn't look almost the exact same looking bearish engulfing candle. Very, very ugly candle. One of the worst I've seen in quite some time. But what happened the next day? You know, a little bit of sideways action, small mini recovery, just to puke down even further. Here, obviously, was deep seek. It's a bit of an exception, but nonetheless, selling pressure regardless, right? So we are printing a very large bearish engulfing candle. So this definitely warrants caution, in my opinion. Now, because it sold off so aggressively and because it is at, you know, decently low levels here, you know, maybe not an insane amount of caution, but this is definitely one of those candles where I'm looking at this, you know, massive, like astronomical, like almost like Guinness World Record breaking looking bearish engulfing candles. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, this requires some patience. You know, there's no reason to rush into this. I mean, maybe I'll sell some cash secured puts, but that's about it, right? This is not one I'm rushing into. This is one I'd rather wait to see. You know, wait and see, right? And again, you want to be careful with these kind of situations because again, how do I explain this? We are still in this descending channel, right? The overall picture that I've been talking about for a long time now, like weeks, is we are still in this descending channel, plain and simple. We are still in a descending channel. Look what happened to Tesla when it got up to this descending channel area. Look what happened. And then it tanked all the way to the bottom end, to the opposite end of the spectrum. Tesla is actually getting close to potentially looking for a bottom now, right? This is bottom picking territory for Tesla. You know, this is where we start looking for the bottom to form. NVIDIA, technically speaking, you know, assuming, you know, things really don't go very well, could at some point, again, I'm not trying to say when, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a week, maybe in a month, I don't know. But as long as we're inside this descending channel, in theory, the next objective is all the way back down to the opposite end of the spectrum. A lot of people up here, when I was saying the exact same thing, were calling me a clown, which is kind of funny. I even have the thing right here. Check it out. Hey, this is the video from 12 days ago. Look where we were. We were on this candle right up here, pretty much near the top. Let's take a look at the comments. Don't you see the volume has been increasing from yesterday as you regain key trend line and resistance? Come on, bro. This is no dead cat bounce. All right, it was a dead cat bounce. NVIDIA will reach 148 next week and 158 on February 26th. Fire emoji, explosive emoji, rocket emoji, rocket emoji. If you read these things and you actually follow on these, you deserve to lose your money. I'm sorry. I'm so glad I wasn't a wuss about the deep. That's good. I mean, that's fine, right? Not sure where you're looking at, but the weekly market bias that I'm seeing is green and the BX trender is making higher lows. So it's definitely moving in the positive direction. Okay, well, we just sold off pretty aggressively, right? Like pretty much most of the comments on these kind of videos over here, you're too short term. You always miss the bigger picture, capturing dollars here and there. Great. It's just, I bring this up because looking at sentiment is important. When everyone is bearish and everyone's scared, we'll probably start looking for bottoms. That's where we start looking for bottoms. When everyone's bullish and putting rocket emojis everywhere like that, we're probably near top, right? It's unironically an indicator. Like if I could take this kind of sentiment and put it in my chart here somewhere as an indicator, I would. Maybe there is something like that. If you know one, let me know. But just watch out for those things, right? And again, people did this at the top, like unironically the top. Like it's crazy to me. Like you can't make this shit up. You really can't. But nonetheless, moving forward for NVIDIA, yes, technically speaking, I'll move to the downside over here, closer to $100 per share. It is a possibility. It's a very, very realistic possibility that obviously can take time. I'm not trying to say it's going to happen right away. In fact, if I go up to the very top of my thing right here, we can take a look at actually here. Here, let me see something. I have this here. Let me go here. Let me go ahead and open up this seasonality chart. Let's take a look at the seasonality chart. Hopefully my camera's not blocking it. It's not. Let me go ahead and zoom in a bit here. What is this showing us, right? This is essentially, yeah, I'm good. This is essentially seasonality on the index, S&P 500 index. Pretty simple stuff, right? Where are we right now? We're, well, tomorrow's the last day of the month, right? We're pretty much right on this dotted line, right over here, right in the middle of the circle, where the market actually finds a bit of a bottom. We find a bit of a bottom, and we actually rally into the first-ish, week, we'll say, of March, into more pain. So this kind of lines up with potentially what I see on NVIDIA. I think we potentially get a little bit more of a sell-off as early as tomorrow, maybe even the 1st of March on Monday, right? But I do think NVIDIA will find a bottom there. And I actually think it'll rally, right? We can't just sell off and we can't just rally. It's too easy. We need to, like the market needs to suck people in, right? That's what the sell-offs do, and that's what the rallies do. They suck people in near the bottoms and near the tops, right? So I do think NVIDIA is actually, again, this bearish engulfing candle has me concerned, but one or two more days of selling potentially, as early as Friday or Monday, I do expect it to at least form a temporary bottom. This also kind of coincides with the Fibonacci's, right? If you take the Fibonacci's, which I'm not a huge fan of doing Fibonacci's here. The main reason is because you want to do Fibonacci's on stocks that are in an uptrend on the daily in this case, because I'm doing it on the daily. NVIDIA is not, right? It is making lower lows, lower highs ultimately. But nonetheless, it's still fairly useful. But you can see we are actually, very close, if not almost at this Fibonacci retracement level of about 119 and change to about 118. So, don't be too surprised if we make our way a little bit lower, potentially, maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday, right? And we look for a bottom around this area, 118 to 120, something like that, right? We find a little bit of a bottom and we find a bit of bounce, get a bit of a bounce from there. That's where, assuming it actually happens, this is where you actually take the real Fibonacci in the direction of the, what the stock is doing. You go from here, and let's just say we do bottom around, let's just say 118 for demonstrational purposes. We could get a bounce easily back up to 127, maybe even best case to 133, really get the, people stuck back in thinking that it's about to explode, just for it to make its way down even further, at least relative to that seasonality I just mentioned, right? Which again, middle of March ends up being still, very, very weak. However, that's seasonality-wise where the bottom roughly starts getting formed, and then we get a nice rally moving forward from there, pretty much up until like September or something like that. So that's kind of my perspective. So again, in other words, if you were to like roughly draw this out, a little bit of a maybe, slightly more move to the downside, nice little rally, get people stuck back in, get everyone excited, a lot of hopium, etc. And then we get that middle of March massive selling pressure. That's where, we can really come down to the bottom of this channel. NVIDIA comes back down to about, closer to 105 or so. And that's where we find our massive, massive bottom. And then we rally from there. That's kind of what seasonality suggests, right? But again, we'll take a step by step. For instance, if we, let's say maybe do bottom around here, but let's say we actually break out of this downward channel. That's a different story entirely. Now we have officially broken out of this downward channel. The next step, of course, will be to remove this fresh lower high that printed over here, to really truly change the trend. But even a break above this trend line here would be a good sign of things to come. But that's something that you can really look for. So yeah, let's see how this plays out. Now, I'm personally only interested in NVIDIA with, honestly, probably selling cash record puts is probably the only way I'll be trading NVIDIA for now. I'm a little bit more on the safer side for now. I do have a lot of cash record puts already in my account that I am tied up on, so I don't have that much more capital left, but I have a bit more for NVIDIA just in case. So if I do see some more selling pressure down to 118, I will most likely sell like probably 2 weeks out cash record puts for NVIDIA, around the 0.3 or so delta, which again, worst case scenario, I'll just, begin a position there. I'm not too worried about that, but just let's watch and let's just see how this forms, right? And that's kind of the overall perspective I have. It is up after hours, but again, be careful with these after hour movements. It was up after hours this morning and look what happened. So, you always want to be careful with these after hour movements, but, once it touches the bottom of the end of the Bollinger Band and the RSI remains oversold, that's where I'm starting to get interested, at the very least, to sell some cash or good puts and at least get some form of premium onto the stock as it continues doing its thing before we really truly find the bottom, which again, seasonality suggests should be somewhere around mid of March. So let's see how that plays out. Now, again, that's still technically the more bullish perspective, right? Because I actually, this is, despite me thinking it might go to 107 or 105, this is still technically, in my opinion, the more bullish perspective, because this would lead into a very aggressive move to the upside. Now, the weekly paints a bit of a different picture. The weekly suggests that, hey, maybe we head down a little bit lower to 117, that kind of 118, 117-ish, lower end of the spectrum I just mentioned, but that's it, and we just go up from there. That's what the weekly is suggesting right now. So it's again, it's a bit contradictory. It's very difficult, but the one thing I'm not a fan of on the weekly for NVIDIA is this. This is the one thing that's really making me a little bit cautious on this stock, at least for now, until I see some more evidence. The weekly Bollinger Bands are tight. They're getting very tight, and once they get tight like this, and once a stock breaches the bottom like this, in this case on the weekly, and then they start expanding back outwards, that's usually not a good sign for the bulls in this case, because again, just we can go on the daily and use it as an example on, I don't know, Google, for instance, or something like that, right? Same with Google. You can see here, it did have a false breakout, so maybe we got a false move to the downside on NVIDIA. It's a possibility, but you can see what happened, right? It got tight, had a false breakout, came back to the opposite side of the spectrum. I mean, it's earnings, to be fair. Earnings is always exceptions to the rule, naturally. But look what happened when it got tight and it started breaking the bottom end of the Bollinger Band. It just really started to bleed. Same thing with Amazon. Exact same thing with Amazon. It got very tight, broke the bottom end of the Bollinger Band, and it started to bleed, right? Even Tesla, same idea. Look at this, how tight it got over here. Finally broke the bottom end of the Bollinger Band, and then the bleeding really started to escalate, right? So that's just an issue I have right now with NVIDIA that's making me a little bit hesitant with the stock. And I'm not like, just super rushing into buying the dip right here, because there's not enough confidence for me personally, especially with the market bias here still being red. You can see right here, which is the first time it's been red in like 2 years, I think. That is making me a little bit cautious, at least personally speaking. That's just, again, my opinion. So in other words, I don't like that the daily and the weekly are showing me two very different things right now, right? Because again, if we technically in the daily come all the way down to the bottom end of this descending channel down to, let's say, 105, well, that also means that we broke down from this massive, ascending wedge, if you will, on the weekly. What does that mean? So which one is the stronger one, right? Which one triumphs which one? Like it's conflicting, right? And I don't like getting these conflicting signals. It's making me very unsure of direction. So that's why, to me personally, I'm not like very interested in like truly longing the stock until I see some more confidence one way or the other, or best case scenario is essentially breaking this trend line. But that's kind of my overall perspective right now. It is fairly oversold, but it can definitely get more oversold here. It hasn't even touched the bottom end of the Bollinger Band, despite RSI being oversold, and despite this indicator here, it is getting to some decent extreme levels of being oversold. But again, if it's not even at the bottom end of the Bollinger Band, I'm not interested yet. I want to see at the very least a touch of the bottom Bollinger Band, or at the very least very close to it, which would be somewhere around 118 if we get that maybe as early as tomorrow or Monday. That's where I'm like, okay, I'm getting a little interested in the stock here, but I still play on the safer side with some cash or good puts, because there's a lot more room for margin of errors, I guess is what we're trying to say, with cash or good puts, as opposed to just outright buying the stock here. Is there anything else I'm missing? I don't think there's much more I'm missing. In terms of options flow, it's pretty bearish, very bearish today. I mean, a lot of bearish flow today throughout the day. Yeah, a lot of bearish flow. Yeah, so not ideal. I mean, the bulls definitely are trying to step in, but definitely, guys, I see some pretty bearish flow throughout the day. NVIDIA with almost 40 million confirmed bearish flow as well. So yeah, this one's gonna take some patience. This one's not something you want to rush into unless you're someone that's bag holding up here. Even though, again, hey, not financial advice, but I was telling people to be careful. I don't know. I don't think there's anything else to mention. I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, let's see how tomorrow goes as we end off the month, and I'll see you then. Peace.